Welcome to Dare, the show for innovators, entrepreneurs, and startup leaders who dare to shape the future. Your hosts today are Ned Hayes and Cecilia Mariani. Dare is brought to you by Darwaf, the superpower tech team that can make your vision a reality. The Dare podcast is excited to welcome Melissa Snover to the show today. She's an award-winning entrepreneur. She works in food technology and additive manufacturing. She is known for creating the world's first 3D printed personalized gummies through her company Nourish. She's done a huge amount of work in innovation, in productizing products, and in running startups. So welcome to the show, Melissa.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. We're excited to talk to you about everything that you've done. But if you could tell us first, tell us about your company, Nourish.
Sure. Yes. Nourish is a business which we had an idea to personalize preventative health. So at the time when I came up with the idea, I was traveling around 200 days a year and I was carrying with me a plastic bag full of vitamins and supplements. You can tell I've been in the UK a long time. Vitamins and supplements. And, it was kind of gross, but it was the only way to do it with so much travel. I was at an airport one day and I was unzipping my carry-on bag to take out my laptop. And the zipper just happened to catch on a plastic bag full of vitamins that then ricocheted onto the floor throughout the security line in Dusseldorf airport. And I had to get on my hands and knees picking up these various pills. And I thought to myself, there's got to be a better way to do this. And so
this is how every great company starts, right? There has to be a better way.
Yeah, right. Yeah, not graceful in any way, but definitely was the tipping point that made me shift gears and start thinking about ways that we could personalize health and make it easier, more enjoyable, and more beneficial for people. So since doing that, we have designed, developed, and created 27 different patented technologies around advanced and additive manufacturing. We build all of our own machines and then use our own machines to make our finished products, which are the world's first and only authentically personalized gummy vitamins.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
So what kind of market presence does Nourish have today?
So I think today, I was actually just doing the numbers. I think we have today done over 100 million stacks globally. We sell our products all over the world in different applications. Primarily, our biggest markets are the United Kingdom, the Eurozone, Japan, and of course, the United States. Each one of those markets has different types of products, which are not only suited to the consumers in that market from a flavor point of view and an ingredient point of view, but also from a regulatory point of view. So in every country, different ingredients, different levels and dosages are allowed or not allowed. And so our agile technology platform is able to customize not just for personal preference and health, but also for individual regulatory regimes in each of those countries.
Right. Well, it sounds like you have to deal with a lot of governments, a lot of regulations. And yet, my understanding is you're famous for nurturing a culture of creativity and experimentation. So how do you do that?
Yeah, it sounds like they can't peacefully coexist. But actually, as long as the guardrails are known, then there is a ton that can be done. I think what I found in my career, in my early career, working in some of the biggest and most highly respected manufacturing sites in the world, food factories in the world, was that, they were very, very good at making large amounts of product at reasonable prices, very quickly, very high quality. But that if you wanted to do anything different, you wanted to change a flavor, you wanted to change the level of a certain ingredient, the whole system broke down. And
it was like trying to move the Titanic, huh?
Absolutely. It was kind of like throwing a stick into a cog, like the whole thing, like just basically stops running. And so, I think when I started working on 3D printing for food, that was really what I was trying to solve for. I wanted to create a technology or a manufacturing process that would allow for there to be a more collaborative development process between the consumer, trends, regulatory rules, which are changing all the time and can be an absolute killer if you're a new business and they want to change something and all the products you currently have just made are no longer allowed to be sold. But at the same time, to be able to respond to underserviced consumer groups. So again, when you're making products in big factories and you have to make a million of the same thing, you can only really do that when you go after the middle market, right? So the people who
Absolutely.
have, 250,000 people would actually love X. Well, that's not enough. We can't do that.
Hmm.
That's not enough people. And it's the same when it comes to drug development. And so by creating a really flexible manufacturing technology, all those restrictions and limitations have been removed. And, we can develop products. Okay, for one customer, we do that every day. Every single product is totally unique in our D2C brand. But at the same time, even for retail and B2B, we can develop very special products for very specific micro-targeted cohorts
Hmm.
that, big factory business just can't service with the model and the methods that they use presently.
Right. Well, speaking of customizing things, I mean, this is using technology that wasn't available 50 years ago, even maybe 20 or 10 years ago. This 3D printing, this just in time customization, those innovations have made your products possible, right?
Absolutely. I think the 3D printing world was really flipped on its head in 2011 and 2012 when some of the big patents for FDM printing expired and
Mm,
they became open source, right? And this is the same kind of background and baseline technology that a lot of the 3D printing systems we see today have been built upon. And by making that open source, and giving it to a bunch of extremely enthusiastic makers, of which I am one, you had this really amazing community of people sharing information. And what happens when everybody shares information and shares learnings is that it helps you to accelerate innovation exponentially. And we
mhm.
see that now with things like AI. If everyone holds on to all their learnings and doesn't share it with anyone, then each of you will grow in certain ways, but the general overall market can't grow at the same rate. And
Right. Rising tide lifts all ships. So if you can all
totally,
contribute to that tide,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. And I think, when I started working on 3D printers in 2014, 2015, I had never used a 3D printer before. I had no idea what I was doing, quite frankly. And I bought them online. I took them apart. I bought kits where you could build your own machine and tried to understand really at a baseline level, like the components and the functionality. I learned G coding, which is basically machine driver code, which is the kind of code that you need in order to tell a 3D printer where to go, at what speed, and up and down, side to side, back to front. And then developed some really important technology around material behavior. So a lot of people think, oh, all you need is a machine and that's it. But actually, the best 3D printer in the world cannot function well unless the material you put in it functions in a uniform way. And so to be able to create gummy confectionery in a 3D printable formula was actually a bigger challenge, I think, than creating the machine itself to be able to do it. Traditional gummy is produced it's cooked at around 300 degrees Celsius, and then is deposited in a very, very liquid, very hot format. And then it takes 3 to 5 days to dry. So if you put that in a 3D printer, you would get a puddle of very hot mess. And so it wouldn't have worked very well. So we had to find a way to
Right.
create instantaneous setting and instantaneous drying within a gummy matrix. And that technology still helps us today because it allows us to encapsulate active ingredients like probiotics and really delicate ingredients like botanicals, like ashwagandha, and keep them safe so that they can be digested and absorbed in the body in the right place. And it's I love it when an innovation pays itself forward again and again, and that technology continues to deliver benefits.
Right. So this brings to mind the kind of vision of having fully customized medicine for each person. The whole idea that you could actually build out a vaccine that is very specific to my genome and my DNA and my heritage versus somebody else who would have a different vaccine. Do you see that future happening? I mean, it sounds like you're able to customize, but you aren't customizing for each individual, are you?
We are customizing for each individual, absolutely. I think every single product that we make for our D2C customers is totally unique. We can make 60 billion different products, and every
That is
product that we
amazing.
make
Wait,
is different.
wait, 60 billion different products. That's
Yeah,
astonishing.
60
Yeah.
billion different products. And that number changes, it goes up all the time because every time we add a new ingredient option, the number goes up again and again and again. You get it. So from a total universe of options of 60 billion different combinations, each individual
Mhm.
person's combination is different. We
Wow.
ran like a data review about a year ago where we went back through the millions of products that we've made, and like the number of times we've made the same product for different people was less than 10.
Wow, that's really
It's cool,
astonishing.
isn't it?
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so do you see this as being kind of the leading edge of where medicine is going to go? I mean, I know that you're just doing, well, just vitamins are important, being able to add different components are super important, but do you see medicine itself going this direction?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when we think about health, Hippocrates said, prevention is always better than cure. And we want that 80+% of a person's health journey happens in a preventative approach. So that is everything from lifestyle to eating habits to diet and exercise. All of those things need to keep you well and give you the best possible chance of staying well. However, when we need cures, the idea that up until, I mean, really, even now today, widespread medicine, it's absolutely not customized. It's crazy to me. It blows my mind. We
Right.
have so much information. There's so much information available to doctors and patient care providers around everything from genetic profiles to microbiome profiles, which actually I think is very difficult to create correlations from because it's so new. But in the next 10 years, that is
Right.
with AI, it's going to be hugely supportive of correlative information to support health outcomes. You have, of course, blood science, very well established science that they know. You've got urine testing, you've got blood sugar testing, all of these data points. And then, of
Mhm.
course, into additional things like response to drug, response to regime, et cetera, which could be added in by the patient care provider. They have all this information. The biggest issue they have is they can't do anything with it. They have been doing up until now is personalizing by combining different medications, right? So you could argue that, this plus this is kind of customized,
Mm.
right? So this mixture of different drugs at different times could be considered personalized. One kind of medicine right now, which is fully personalized from a dosaging point of view, is IVs. IVs are really easy to personalize. You can personalize
Okay.
liquid medication because you can just change the concentration of the medication in the bag. That is already easy to customize. The big barrier right now, which we hope to be able to support a solution on, is that if you know all those things, what can you do? You can't make a medication then, can you? They can't make a drug in a hospital that's going to be customized. The best possible solution they have available to them now is breaking pills in half, which a lot of
Mhm.
times you can't do because suspended release, or like lots and lots of teeny drugs. And I'll tell you, a drug that is done like this is a steroid. Steroids, you often get like 2 milligram doses of steroid medication,
Mhm.
and they'll say to an adult, take 15 of these. Wow. Okay. It's a lot, right? But that is like the closest that they can get because that is the only solution available with mass production. With our technology, what we want to be able to do, and which we have already validated in 2 clinical trials, is that we can allow for the doctor or patient care provider or a QR code that was like is linked to a data file that they have given information on can be entered into a 3D printer, and that 3D printer can print out that specific medication with that exact dose.
That's astonishing. Wow. Yeah.
Outstanding. Eventually, you could combine drugs or even do things like, for example, add a coating of calcium carbonate, which is
Mhm.
like what is in Pepto Bismol and Tums,
Yeah,
on
yeah.
top of a drug that causes acid reflux, for example, to prevent or limit the amount of that negative side effect in the patient, which already has a highly acidic stomach. Okay, so that's just two
Mhm.
examples. The other thing that we can look at and see in the future coming not too far from now is this mergence of natural medicine and pharmacological medicine. So a good example of this would be antibiotics. Everybody at some point in their life has had to take an antibiotic. We all know that antibiotics can also and do also kill good bacteria. And this can also cause additional negative impacts in your overall health. What if your probiotic your antibiotic could have a probiotic, which is encapsulated so that 3 hours after your antibiotic is absorbed and digested, your probiotic strains come out and replenish
Mm.
the bacteria with fiber and prebiotics to be able to support the, diversity of your microbiome and which is so key for so many other elements in your health. So you get the idea, right? Can you imagine this
Right.
happen? And when it comes to making something special for someone, probiotic strains can absolutely be engineered on person by person.
Really?
And it's already being done now. They're taking the microbiome samples from elite athletes and creating commercial probiotic strains that reduce lactic acid and increase endurance in exercise.
Really? That is fascinating.
Incredible, right? So this kind
Yeah.
of thing absolutely could be done person by person. And
Well,
it is that technology available. Yeah.
right. And even moment by moment. I mean, you and I are probably both wearing devices that quantify our activity, quantify our heartbeats
Yeah.
and our stress levels and all of that. And if we're able to have that data immediately influence what kind of medication we're having. I mean, I don't necessarily want a needle plunging from my watch into my skin, but the
No.
future of being able to monitor somebody's insulin levels, for example, and be able to react to that in real
Incredible.
time rather
Yeah.
than having to force them to go through the painful process of doing a manual blood draw and having that tested and then figuring out being able to react in near real time to someone's health and provide them potentially life-saving medication. That's really a game changer.
I totally agree. The other really good example is hormonal conditions, thyroid
Mhm.
conditions, being able to take active reads on hormone levels and then, proactively change the regime dosage or even the recommendation of you've got all these drugs at home today based on your reading you need to do this instead of this because that is currently not customized at all, and
Really?
people are basically taking too much or too little of something for an extended period of time, and it's very, never mind is it potentially life threatening, because it is in certain cases. It causes horrible side effects like extreme weight gain, skin conditions, adult acne breakouts, and this is
Mm,
making people's lives a misery, and it's not
right.
necessary. So yeah, I think there's so many. And then you look at pediatrics, so the
Yeah.
90+% of drugs are developed for adults, and children die from misdosaging of medication every year at levels that are unacceptable in this day and age. And if
Well,
you
I
could
think the loss
customize
of any
medicine, yeah,
I think the loss of any child is unacceptable, but absolutely
unacceptable,
agree. Yeah.
unacceptable. And for silly things, because there is no dosage available, so that we're doing this whole break this pill in half scenario, which is
Mhm.
like, where are we? What year is it?
What era
Right?
are we? Right. Well, speaking of era, one thing that has really impressed me about this conversation is that it seems like you've taken a lot of lessons and a lot of ways of working in the world from what I think of as the fast moving startup culture of the tech industry, and you've applied it into healthcare. So, can you tell me more about how you did that and how you're taking that kind of momentum and that type of acceleration into those new domains? Because as you said, healthcare can be kind of old school, right?
Yes. And to be quite frank, also food is old school too. In my experience, the regulatory regime strictness, seriousness in food and medicine is equal. And I
Mhm.
think the reason for that is if you put it in your mouth, then it could potentially kill you, which food can as well.
Yeah.
I think that there is the same kind of like protection for consumers. So, but you're absolutely right. I think I would argue that there are also potentially some regulatory restrictions in tech, but often they come after the fact, right? Because the regulation is catching up with technology as opposed to the other way around.
Yeah.
I think with our business, we always start with the consumer first, right? So every
Mm.
single thing that we have developed from a technology point of view has been created with a sole goal to output a certain product solution for the consumer. And so
Mm.
we start with what is the consumer missing, needs, could get a lot better value out of, or a better result from. What is the end output that we want to make? Okay, then working backwards, what technology do we need to develop in order to make that what is currently a complete and utter pipe dream a reality? And so by building the business around me, which has all of that technology power. And when I say technology, I mean a formulation, a recipe is a technology, right? A
Mm.
formulation is a recipe. It's not so much, is it ones and zeros and pieces of metal? No, not all of
Right.
it. There's a ton of technology that is actually know how and recipes and flavor masking technology. This is like to make something taste good. That is not
Yeah.
not the kind of technology you picture when you say technology. And where other people in technology are saying a product is a piece of software, we're talking about a physical product. But I think neither one of them is any less tech enabled. Our products are not possible without technology. And the
Right.
technology itself is our single biggest power in being able to pivot and be agile and continually develop the products and services that our team and our customer needs to live their best lives. We've set up our technology system and universe in order to allow us to change our mind over and over and over again. And I think that's the difference between this and a traditional food business, which is set up to make the same thing again and again forever at the lowest possible price, at the fastest possible speed. We set up with agility is the number one goal. That is it. Yeah.
Well, so you've really cultivated a mindset that embraces that kind of fast moving, risk based enterprise. And you've done that within a highly regulated industry. So tell us more about what drives you personally to do that.
I'm sure when you interview entrepreneurs, I'm sure you get similar answers to what I'm about to say, because I think it has to do with like something that you're born with.
Uh huh.
I just can't sleep at night when I feel like something is not right. It bothers me on a cellular level. And certainly some things bother me to a level where, it's like a buzz in the back of my ear. Other things bother me to the point where it wakes me up in the middle of the night and I have a notebook next to on my bedside table where I'm like jotting down things so that I don't forget, blah, 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 that kind of thing. And I think that's what drives me. I think I would not be a successful entrepreneur if I was to be in a business that was just making 1% improvements. And there's nothing wrong with that. And a lot of people make a lot of money in businesses that just improve something that already exists by 1% or make it slightly less expensive or make it slightly easier to use. And there's
Right. Just
nothing wrong with that. And I
incremental
think there's,
improvement, incremental changes. Yeah.
yeah, to be honest, that is lower risk than what I do. It's probably faster return of investment because you are not having to explain something from the ground up. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
arguments to say that that's the smarter business case, but I've never done anything in my career to make money. I'm not saying that you don't have to make money in business. That's foolhardy to talk like that because you absolutely need to make money to pay
Right.
your
Right.
staff and all those other things. But I have never set out with the goal of making money. I've set out with a goal to solve a problem, to create a better solution, to support myself and consumers and my family. So I think when that is your original goal, yeah, it's intrinsic to who I am as a human being that this is
Mm.
what I do. And I absolutely love it. And I really truly believe that I'm unemployable. I'm probably going to regret saying that. But I really believe I am unemployable because I can't imagine doing anything other than,
Mhm.
what I think is the right and most important thing to do.
Fantastic. Well, so tell us where you're going next with this business and with your life.
So yeah, the business has been growing very, very fast. Last year and this year actually it's been very exciting, but it's been very tricky. We went from 4 people to over 200 people
Wow,
and
that in 1 year.
in 18 months. So yeah,
Wow, that's
it's
that's a
still, whoo,
huge yeah,
it's tough. Everything has to
yeah.
change. Everything has to change. The way you speak to your team, the cadence of communication, the everything. I mean, we tried to do a team meeting the other day and we have a big facility. There's not a single room in the entire facility that's big enough to fit everyone in. So we had to rent like a conference center. Anyway, the point is everything changes and really things that you didn't have to think about in the beginning because everyone sat in the same room. You have to think and spend a lot of energy and time to ensure that you maintain it. And one of those things is culture. When
Mhm,
everybody was hired directly by me, when everyone sat in the room with me, the culture was extremely cohesive. Now we have 200 people. How do we make sure that that culture doesn't die away, and that
mhm,
doesn't get diluted to a point where, employee number 506 has no idea what our mission is, has no idea of who we are as a business and what matters to us. So this is something I'm spending more time on because I think that's extremely important. All of our team members, everyone from our entry level factory workers all the way up to, of course, my C-suite, are owners in our company. And I think that that helps. So we give shares to everyone in the business. They're gifted by the business to the employee after 6 months probation. And so I think that helps, but it's not enough on its own. So that is something I'm going to be thinking about a lot as we move forward. We have just come back from Japan, where we have launched into 2 more retailers with the support of,
Congratulations.
and I love Japan so much. It's such a wonderful place. So we are currently now looking at the forward-looking plan, which could involve us setting up manufacturing in Japan with our technology in a Japanese site, which is very exciting. And from a product portfolio point of view, we're going to continue to develop the products that we offer with more and more solutions. As you know, we're launching new items probably every other week. But at the same time, we really want to ensure that we are the place that people can go for personalized health products for everyone in their family. And we already do that well for adults, for kids, for teens. But we actually are missing a big important part of the modern family, which is pets. And so we will be launching Nourish Pets, which will be personalized treats, which have functional ingredients that are personalized for your dog. Or we're going to start with dogs first, then we're going to launch pets. And I think a lot of
That's
people are asking for
exciting.
horses as
Yeah.
well. So who knows? But yes, there you go. Yeah.
So that you're really expanding rapidly.
Yes. Yes, we are.
So that brings me to our last question. This has been such a fantastic conversation. I'd love to continue, but we have limited time. So it brings me to my last question. What do you dare to dream, Melissa?
I dare to dream of a world in the future where personalized food, personalized health solutions, and personalized medicine is available and delivering better outcomes for everyone, everywhere.
Wow, that's a
Yeah,
big vision. Well, it sounds like you're well on your way to accomplishing it.
I
Congratulations
hope.
on meeting your goals so far, all of those milestones. And it sounds like you have a bright future ahead of you at Nourished. We
Thank you
look
so
forward to tracking your progress.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I really appreciate it and really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.
Thanks to our guests today for their great insights on DARE, the podcast for innovators, entrepreneurs, and startup leaders. If you'd like your story to be featured on DARE, just contact us at info@darwaft.com. DARE is brought to you by Darwaft, the tech team that can make your vision a reality.